Hi there, my name's Alex and today I'm going to show you how to make a 6-row rainbow in crochet. Now the things you'll need for this project are yarn in the rainbow colours, a crochet hook, a pair of scissors and a needle. For this tutorial I'll be using milk cotton yarn and a 3.5mm crochet hook. And I'm going to hide those yarn tails by working over them as I go. But if you want to, you can use applied yarn and fringe them like I have with this one. And as you can see by my sample, the milk cotton yarn fringes really well. Now most types of yarn will be fine for this project, it's more about getting the colours right. So we'll start off with the first or the smallest curve of the rainbow, which is purple. And you want to leave a long enough tail to either work over, or to fringe. So as I'm working over my tail, I'm just making sure that that will be able to go over that complete curve, which you'll see a little bit later on what I mean. You want to create a slip knot and create 10 chain stitches. For this pattern you'll be working in single crochet stitches, and we want to do our first single crochet into the very second stitch from our hook. So that's the last one, that's the second one, second last, that's the one we're going to go into. So you insert your hook, wrap the yarn over your hook, pull it through, yarn over the hook again and pull it through both loops on your hook, and that's a single crochet stitch. Now the pattern is to create 3 increases here. An increase is simply 2 single crochet stitches in the 1 stitch space. So we're putting 2 single crochets into that stitch space. Then we've got another 2 increases to go. And 1 more increase. Now we create 1 single crochet, and that is right at the very top of the inner curve of the rainbow. Now we're going to go backwards from what we had or have already done for this row, so it's 3 increases. And 3, and then we finish off with 1 single crochet. And that's it for our first row. So it's time to change colour onto the blue yarn, but first we're going to trim the tail of the purple, again leaving it long enough to either fringe or to work over. Put the blue yarn over your hook and pull it through that last purple stitch. Just pulling on those tails to make sure it's nice and firm. Create a chain stitch and then turn your work to the left. So you want to gather up the 2 yarn tails together so that you can keep those right at the back of your work and enough space for you to be able to put your hook through the stitch and work over them. So we're going to go into the very last stitch that we created, single crochet stitch, making sure that those 2 tails are over the top of your hook. Then you're going to create your first single crochet stitch. This row is actually the hardest one to do of the whole project, just because it's a little bit sort of fiddly, but persevere with it because it's going to save you having to sew those yarn tails in later on. So for this row, we're just going to single crochet the whole length, making sure that we are working over those 2 yarn tails. Take your time and just check every now and then that you are actually making sure that both of those tails are being hidden as you work along. Now the reason I like to keep the tails long and hide it over the whole length of that row is because it makes it nice and even. If you actually have a yarn tail that stops halfway along your row, you might end up with a bit of a lumpy or bumpy rainbow. So by going along the whole length, you're going to make sure that that is consistent, and it also seems to give the rainbow a little bit more of a stable finish. When you've finished row 2, you can trim off the yarn tails. Now what I like to do is actually just pull a little bit on them, just so that when you trim the tails off, the ends will kind of retract back under your crochet work and you won't see where you've trimmed the yarn. So give it a snip. And just sort of work on it a little bit just to make sure that the tails retract back underneath your stitching. You can trim your blue yarn, and we're going to get the green yarn now over the hook through that last blue loop on our hook, and create a chain stitch. Turn your work to the left, and we're going to hide the blue and green yarn tail under our single crochet row we're about to do. Now this one here, we're back to doing some increases. So we start with a single crochet and followed by an increase. So remember, your increase is just 2 single crochet stitches in the same place, followed by a single crochet. Again, just holding those yarn tails and tucking them in under our work. An increase, followed by a single crochet and an increase, and then 3 single crochet stitches across the top of your rainbow. 2 and 3. Now we're going to increase and a single crochet, increase, single crochet, increase, and single crochet to finish that row. All the tails are neatly tucked in. You can trim the excess off and grab your next colour, which will be yellow. Again, leaving a nice long tail to work with. Put the yarn over your hook, pull it through that last green loop on your hook, chain stitch 1 and turn your work to the left. Nice easy one here, which is a single crochet all the way along, so that's 21 stitches, and we're covering our yarn tails. Just check as you go that they're all being headed nice and neatly. Now if anyone's interested in buying this yarn that I'm using, the milk cotton yarn, it's actually, I'm not sure if there's actually a cotton content in there. I think it might be an acrylic yarn or a blend of cotton and acrylic. And I've purchased this through AliExpress or through eBay. It's really cost effective to buy and comes in about 100 colours. At the end of row 4, you can trim your yarn tails. And we're about to pull through the orange yarn for row 5. So again, we're going to put our yarn over the hook, pull it through the very last stitch we created for row 4, chain 1 stitch, turn your work to the left, and this is our last row of increasing. So you want to create 2 single crochet stitches. Again, we're going to be working over our yarn tails, then an increase, 2 single crochet stitches, and an increase, 2 single crochet stitches and an increase, then 3 single crochets across the top of your rainbow. And working in reverse order now, we're going to increase, two single crochet stitches, increase, 2 single crochets, increase, and 2 single crochets to finish that row. So row 5 has 27 stitches, and it was the last of our increasing round. So I've only got one more round to go. Pull those tails, trim them, and grab your red yarn. Now onto our very last row, row 6. Put the red yarn over your hook, bring it through the last loop that you have on your hook in the orange, chain stitch 1, turn to the left, and again we want to get those 2 yarn tails and tuck them under our work. Now row 6 is simply single crochet for the whole length of the 27 stitches. Now the beauty of this pattern, and it's taken me ages to work out how to do this, trust me, I think I've made about 20 rainbows trying to work out how to do this rainbow pattern, was to actually create a rainbow that was nice and small and compact, but didn't have those flat edges of increases that you see in other patterns. So by finishing off the very last row in the red with just a single crochet, it really softens the whole curve of the rainbow, and it looks about as round as you're going to get anything that's crocheted. Just sort of evens off those flat edges. Now this is the 6-row crocheted rainbow. Don't forget that I also have a tutorial for my 12-row rainbow, which is about twice the size and probably even nicer actually, because the stripes are really even. And I definitely recommend that you check that video out. Now we can trim off our red yarn tail, pull it through the last loop on our hook, snip off the 2 tails that we've hidden into our work. So now we've only got 2 yarn tails to sew in. Nice and easy. So now you just have to thread your yarn tail onto a darning needle, weave it in and out of your work. I like to again go through the whole length of the work just for this little 6-row rainbow, because it keeps your work nice and even. Here's a little tip that you can use to help you thread your needle. Just using a little bit of sewing cotton looped through the eye of the needle, and then you can easily put your yarn through that loop, pull on the cotton and thread your needle. With the last tail sewn in, you can trim that yarn, and there you have it, a cute little rainbow. Thanks so much for watching. Please show your support by hitting that like button, and consider subscribing to my channel for instant access to fun and creative project tutorials. I'd love you to join me. Thanks again, be safe, be positive, and as always, stay awesome.